In the untamed heart of the American wilderness, no one expected to see it. A lone silverback gorilla, standing between a helpless grizzly bear cub and a pride of hungry mountain lions. But what happened next would defy every instinct we thought we knew about the wild. This isn't a fairy tale. It's a true story of courage, unlikely alliances, and the thin line between life and death. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications, because this story will stay with you long after it ends. Asterisk. The wind came off the Absaroka Range, carrying the sting of snow and the sharp scent of crushed sage. The valley, a patchwork of willow thickets and open meadow, held its breath as evening slid down the slopes. It was the hour when shadows got long and choices got short dusk, the hunter's time. A grizzly cub, no more than 10 months old, wobbled along the edge of the meadow where the willow line broke into soft grass. He had the scruffy look of late spring survivors, fur still patchy from the long winter, belly pinched by a day that hadn't delivered much. His mother had pushed him toward a fallen cottonwood earlier, a safe corner while she foraged along the river. But the smell of something sweet, maybe a forgotten chokecherry cache scraped out by a badger, tugged him farther than caution taught. He snuffled, pawed, and kept going, the way young things do when the world still looks like a series of invitations to shapes. Watched him from the tree line. They were mountain lions, a seasoned female and her near-grown offspring, learning the grammar of dusk. Their tails ticked the air in slow metronomes. The older cat's ears twitched toward the cub, toward the river, toward every rumor of sound. She moved first, a low glide across grass that barely stirred. The younger cat ghosted after her, hinds high, shoulders rolling in a ripple that said hunger had a schedule, and it was now half a mile away, inside a perimeter of 8-foot fencing that threaded the foothills like a cautionary stitch, alone. Silverback gorilla stood at the crest of a low knoll and listened. He was called Machina by the humans who had sworn to keep him alive, a name from a keeper who'd loved him when he was small enough to tuck under an arm. Machina had grown in a private collection until the law caught up with the owner. The sanctuary had taken him 2 winters ago, acres of timber, rocks to climb, a heated shelter, browse cut fresh twice a day. The fence was double-gated. The posts were sunk deep. It kept Machina in and the rest of the wild politely out. Except the world doesn't always read our signs. A wind-thrown fir had leaned all winter against an outer post until last week's thaw softened the ground. The post had given an inch, then another, a wedge of space open where none should be. It wasn't much a gap a bobcat could love, but it turned a boundary into a suggestion. Machina found it at dawn and did what smart, bored animals do. He investigated. He didn't bolt. He didn't rage. He stepped through the gap the way a river steps around a stone and discovered a valley that smelled louder than the one he knew. He moved like a shadow with weight. His chest was the color of weathered slate. His back wore the silver of his years. He pressed his knuckles into the soft ground and breathed in willows, mule deer, a biker's chain lube from the county road, and knew now, urgent, the flattened vine, scent of cat. Machina paused at the edge of the willow veil and watched the meadow unfold as if it were a screen he could step into. He saw the small brown shape bumbling between grass hummocks. He saw the cats materialize from shadow. He didn't name them. Gorillas don't narrate the way humans do. but he knew the choreography of teeth. He knew the prelude to violence. The lead mountain lion slid into position, using a rotten stump as cover. 30 yards. 20. The cub lifted his head, blinked, and then, too late, caught the movement. He froze, as if stillness could make him invisible. It couldn't. The younger lion circled to cut the angle to the willow line. It was the tidiest of traps. A wall of air, a wall of claw, a small mistake in the middle. Machina stepped forward. He didn't charge. He didn't beat his chest. He simply entered the meadow like a boulder, deciding to grow legs. His silhouette broke the line of dusk. The lead lion halted, head tilting, pupils slotting to read a shape the hills did not teach. The younger cat flattened, tail stiff, confused enough to break rhythm. The cub seized the pause. He scrambled toward the cut bank, where the willow roots made a ladder, paws slipping, breath clicking in little panic sounds. The lead lion swiveled, decision torn, and chose speed. She flowed left, trying to head the cub off at the notch. The younger cat reset to block the back door. Machina's chest rose and fell, once, twice. He closed the distance in a handful of powerful, ground-eating strides, a low-fused thunder that remade the meadow's geometry. When he reached the rotten stump, he did the simplest, most gorilla thing. He stood, full height, shoulders flared, arms slightly out, palms loose. He exhaled a slow, deliberate hoot that rolled across grass like a throne drum. The sound wasn't loud. It was large. The lions didn't flee. They adjusted. The older cat tensed to test the big stranger's willingness. The younger cat, its gaze from the cub to Machina's hands. Language it didn't speak. The cub scrabbled, found a root with one paw, and hauled himself up the first shelf of bank. He turned his head back once, eyes wide, and made a soft sound that wasn't a cry and wasn't a call, a sound that belonged to things that still believed mothers always came when you needed them. No mother came. The mountain lioness took one deciding step, Machina answered, by dropping to all fours and slapping the ground with both hands, dirt jumping the way dust jumps in a summer barn. The cats flinched, not from volume, but from the shock of an unexpected script. Predators thrive on patterns. Machina broke one. A crack echoed from the far ridge. Not gunfire, a branch giving to its own winter. It was enough. The older lion gave a breathy huff, indecision turning into discretion. She backed 2 steps, eyes never leaving Machina's hands, then slunk along the tree line. The younger cat held a heartbeat longer, tail twitching, and then followed, melting back into the sketchbook of dusk. The meadow remembered its wind. Machina stayed where he was, head tilted, listening to the place where the cats had been, to the small scrape of the cub climbing to the river, worrying the cut bank below. He walked to the base of the willow ladder and looked up. The cub had made the first shelf and stopped, shaking, eyes fixed on this impossible neighbor. Machina did not reach. He did not coo. He simply angled his body between the cub and the open meadow, a wall that breathed. Across the river, a shape broke from the cottonwoods, a grizzly sow at a dead run, the earth thudding under her like a drum under many hands. She had been too far when the cats set their plan, too far when the gorilla broke it. And now she was exactly as far as timing would let her be. Machina stepped back into the willow shadow and gave the space back to the bear it belonged to. So hit the cut bank, rose on her forelegs, and pulled her cub the rest of the way by his scruff with a gentleness that had teeth waiting behind it. She turned, then, slow, massive, assessing the meadow. Her gaze brushed the tree line, the stump, the hollow where the cats had been. It paused at the place where Machina had stood. There was no language for what passed in that stillness. There was attention, there was a ledger. And then there was departure, the sow herding the cub into the safety of the cottonwoods, the willow veil falling back into place, the meadow looking like it always had. Machina remained until the scent of cats thinned and the wind stopped telling him stories. Then he turned upslope toward the fence and the broken post he did not know he had slipped, and disappeared into the kind of twilight that can keep a secret behind him. On the first shelf of the cut bank, a set that told a short, hard story, climbed, slipped, tried, made it, and because the world had decided to be generous for a change, the night held. The wind shifted in the high pines, carrying with it the raw scent of fear and adrenaline. The mountain lions had closed in, their tawny shapes ghosting between the shadows of fallen logs and snow patches. The cub's tiny frame trembled, his breath coming in short, desperate bursts. He stumbled backward until his back brushed against the massive leg of the silverback gorilla. The gorilla, known to researchers as Kanoa, didn't move at first. His deep brown eyes locked on the lead lioness, a muscular predator whose low, rumbling growl vibrated through the frozen ground. The cub whimpered, pressing himself closer against Kanoa's thick fur. Somewhere in the back of his primal mind, the gorilla knew this was not his fight, but the cub's shivering body against his leg said otherwise. The lions began to fan out, a calculated hunting move, to slip to the sides, circling toward Kanoa's flanks. The silverback straightened to his full height, a towering wall of muscle and dark fur. In the dim winter light, his breath looked like smoke. He let out a sharp chest beat, a sound so sudden and deep it echoed off the canyon. Walls. The lions froze for a split second. They'd never seen such a creature stand its ground against them. Kanoa took a deliberate step forward, placing himself squarely between the cub and the predators. His massive hands clenched into fists, knuckles pale under the thick skin. The cub's tiny paw reached forward instinctively, resting against the gorilla's heel in the distance. The faint crackle of a radio broke through the tension. Wildlife Ranger Sarah Whitmore was on patrol, scanning for unusual activity after a week of predator sightings near the research zone. Through her binoculars, she caught sight of movement, shapes low to the ground, stalking something. She adjusted the focus, and her heart stopped. Lions, and something huge and upright in their path. And was that a cub? Sarah broke into a run, her boots crunching in the snow, rifle slung but ready. Every step felt slower than the last as she watched the tense standoff unfold. Kanoa didn't wait for the lions to attack. With a sudden bellow that ripped through the pines, he charged forward, using his sheer size to scatter the lead lioness. She leaped aside, snarling, but her two companions darted in from the side. Kanoa swung a powerful arm, striking the snow, so hard it sent a spray of ice into their faces. The cub took the chance to scramble backward toward a cluster of fallen logs. Sarah's voice rang out from the trees. "Hey, get back!" She fired a warning shot into the air. The lions, startled by the explosion of sound, hesitated, then retreated into the shadows. their low growls fading into the forest. Breathing heavily, Kanoa turned to the cub, who was now pressed into the safety of the logs. His chest heaved, his breath clouding in the cold air. The gorilla crouched low, tilting his head slightly, as if to check the little bear for injuries. The cub blinked up at him, still shaking, but alive. Sarah approached slowly, her eyes darting between the two unlikely companions. She'd seen strange things in her career, but this, a gorilla guarding a grizzly cub, was beyond anything she could explain. "It's okay," she murmured, voice low, more to calm herself than them. Kanoa didn't move until the cub stepped toward her, his small paws crunching softly on the snow. Then, with one last glance at the ranger, the silverback turned and began to fade into the pines. His massive frame swallowed by the trees, Sarah knelt, scooping the cub gently into her arms. His fur was cold, his heart beat quick against her jacket. "You're safe now," she whispered, though part of her new safety in these mountains was never permanent. Asterisk. The radio call hit Ranger Anna Morales halfway up the service road. "Whitmore. Here, I broke up a lion set on a grizzly cub near the cutbank. There was a gorilla in the mix. He stood off the cats. Cubs alive." Anna braked hard, gravel snapping under the tires. "Copy. Hold perimeter. I'm en route." 10 minutes later, cold air slapped her cheeks as she met Sarah Whitmore at the willow edge. The younger ranger's voice was steady, but her hands gave away the adrenaline. "Cats peeled off when I fired a warning. The cub sheltered in the logs. I kept distance to avoid imprinting." Anna scanned the snow. The page still held the morning story. Paired cat tracks sweeping in a pincer, small bear scallops clawed into the mud ladder, and plain as a signature deep knuckle printed by the rotten stump. "Machina," she said. Sarah blinked. "Machina. The sanctuary silverback. Some records still list him under his old name, Kanoa, from the private collection he came from. Same animal." Anna crooked a finger toward the fence line. "He slipped the gap at post 7, then came back." They followed the cub's tiny tracks to where the cottonwoods thickened. A soft huff answered before they saw her. The sow broad-shouldered eyes, hard with audit. The cub mud drying in commas along his flank pressed under her chest. Anna kept her body turned, hands visible, voice low. "No hazing, she's stable." The sow sniffed long, then turned upslope, ushering the cub into the darker pines. Snow fell off a branch in a tired sheet. When the forest swallowed them, the valley exhaled at the sanctuary gate. Dr. Nora Patel was already knee-deep in the problem that had started the day. Two techs levered the crooked fence post upright, while a third tamped gravel and fast-set into the thawed hole. A stack of apple boughs and willow cuttings lay against the inside mesh. Fresh scent pooling like a promise. Post reset. Bracket replaced. Rail alarm rewired. Nora reported, breath fogging. She held up a strand of coarse black hair snagged. On the old burr, he squeezed out here and came back here. No tool marks. He just chose. Or something outside made the inside feel smaller, Anna said. Her phone buzzed. The hush magnet at post 7 pinged green. "We're sealed. If he so much as lifts the rail, I'll get a chirp." Sarah handed over her incident notes. Undramatic. "I didn't crowd the cub. No contact. One warning shot skyward." "Good," Anna said. "We keep the people piece clean, or we lose the wildlife piece. They walked the fence, shoulder to shoulder. On the outside, fresh lion. Scat steamed in the colder, reminder that the pair had looped back after the standoff. On the inside, a dark shape moved behind the alder brows. Machina, half shadow, half stone, chewing slow. Eyes flicking to the line where his world had bent. Nora stood quietly, palms open against the mesh. Hey, big man, no baby talk, no apology, just recognition. Machina didn't reach or posture. He turned a fraction, so one shoulder silvered and scar-flecked faced the humans. The angle gorillas use when they're choosing to stay in a conversation. Anna kept her voice, for Nora will need a statement. Managed perimeter breach, immediate repair, public safe distance maintained. Emphasize, he's not exhibit, he's protected. Nora nodded. And your lions, pair hunting Dry Creek. We'll push hikers to road loops only, daylight only, quiet signage, no heroics. Evan jogged up, breath puffing. Camera traps are set banked, stump, fence. If the cats or the sow circle back, we'll have eyes. He hesitated. There's a short blowing up on local socials. Someone filmed silhouettes from the ridge. They think Makina's a mutant bear. Nora winced. Anna didn't. Good. Confusion buys us a day. Comes will pivot the narrative before certainty arrives. They were packing to leave when a low chuff rolled from the timber. Everyone stilled. Across the public side, the lioness materialized between trunks, body a letter written in muscle. She didn't commit. She stood, head high, reading fence, humans, scent. A second shape, her nearly grown subadults, flipped in behind. Machina stopped. Chewing, he did not thump, shout, or test steel. He simply stepped forward until his chest aligned with the cat's through the mesh, neither fleeing nor challenging, then sank to his knuckles, making himself present without making himself a problem. The lioness's ears flattened, not in rage but calculation. She held 3 breaths, turned with a disdain older than language, and ghosted back into brush. The subadult followed, tail a slow metronome. Nora's shoulders dropped. He stayed. He chose the inside, Anna said, more to the record than to anyone else. She thumbed her radio. All units, fence secure, sow and cub mobile, lion pair present but deterred by human activity. Maintain low profile, no public alerts beyond standard predator signage. They stood there a while longer, listening to the wire cool and the river, decide what story to tell next. Snow thickened, rounding boot prints, softening the sharp edges of the morning. Tomorrow we'll still have cats, a fence, a gorilla, and a bear family, Sarah said. Tomorrow, Anna answered, we'll also have choices. Behind the mesh, Machina reached for a willow branch and, with the deliberate care of a creature that understands leverage, bent it toward him workmanlike, unhurried till the world, for a moment, fit inside his hands. The snow had stopped by mid-morning, leaving the forest in a state of muted perfection. Every branch was lined with frost, every sound muffled under a fresh white quilt. To most, it would seem peaceful. To Ranger Anna Morales, it was an uneasy calm, the kind that follows when predators are still in the area. The lion tracks were already half filled with powder, but they cut a direct line toward the lower meadow. Anna knelt, gloved fingers, brushing one of the fresher prints. They're hunting low today, she murmured into the radio. No signs of a kill site yet. From her left, the distant thud of heavy knuckles on packed snow made her look up. Machina was moving along the inside of the fence, parallel to her route, his breath visible in slow bursts. He wasn't pacing like an animal trapped. His gait was purposeful, tracking something she couldn't see. Anna walked with him, separated by the mesh. "You keeping watch?" she asked softly. He glanced once in her direction, then forward again, as if confirming they were both reading the same chapter in the same story. She reached the service gate, where Evan was waiting with a thermal scope slung over his shoulder. "Heat signatures, 200 meters out," he said quietly. "Pretty sure it's the lioness and the subadult again. They're skirting the river bend." "Any sign of the sow and cub?" Anna asked. Evan shook his head. "No, but if they're smart, they're staying in the timber above Dry Creek." Anna took the scope, scanning the edges of the tree line. The lions moved like liquid gold against the cold, heads low, bodies working in perfect sync. They weren't wandering, they were searching. Machina stopped near the corner post, his shoulders squared, watching the same direction Anna was. For a moment, it struck her how unnatural and yet natural this was. A gorilla and a human, both tracking lions for the safety of a bear family neither technically owned. The radio crackled. Sarah Whitmore's voice came through. "Got movement near the East Ridge, possible SIO sighting. One cub in tow." Anna felt relief tighten her chest. "Copy, hold visual, do not engage. Let her move naturally." She passed the scope back to Evan. "Stay on the lions. We need to know if they're closing distance." They parted ways, Evan keeping to the lower ground, Anna taking the higher ridge trail. As she climbed, the snow deepened, pulling at her boots. She found herself thinking about the strange triad forming here, the sow machina and the lions, each driven by survival, but each making choices that rippled through the valley. By the time she reached the ridgeline, Sarah was there, crouched behind a fallen spruce. Through a gap in the branches, Anna saw the sow moving carefully along a wind-sheltered slope. The cub trotted at her side, the same one Machina had seen threatened days earlier. His fur was matted in places, but he kept up without faltering there. "Heading west, toward the heavier timber," Sarah whispered. Anna nodded. "Good cover there, less chance of a lion ambush." They stayed still until the bears disappeared into the trees. Anna keyed her radio to Evan. "Status on the cats." "They broke off, heading south," came the reply. Machina tracked them along the fence for a while, then peeled back toward the browse pile. Anna smiled faintly. "Copy, return to base." The hike back was quiet. Snowmelt dripped from the pines in slow, rhythmic beats. Anna couldn't shake the image of Machina's silent watch, the way he had chosen to align himself with their work without any leash, command, or reward. It wasn't ownership. It was something closer to partnership. At the sanctuary gate, Machina was there again, sitting on his haunches, chewing a stripped willow branch. When Anna approached, he didn't move away. She stood on her side of the mesh, meeting his gaze. No words, no gestures, just a shared moment of stillness between two guardians of a fragile piece of wilderness. The valley was quiet again, but Anna knew it wouldn't last. Out here, quiet was never the end of the story. It was only the space between one heartbeat and the next dot, asterisk by dawn. The temperature had dropped sharply again. Frost clung to the edges of the ranger station's windows, and the sky was a muted blue-gray, the kind that made the horizon feel endlessly far away. Anna Morales wrapped her hands around a mug of coffee, scanning the overnight reports. There'd been no sign of the lions since yesterday, but that didn't mean they were gone. In winter, predators could vanish for days, only to reappear exactly where you didn't want them. She glanced out toward the sanctuary fence. Machina was there, sitting motionless atop a half-buried boulder. His dark fur was dusted with snow, his breath slow and steady. Anna realized he'd probably been there for hours, watching the valley wake up. By mid-morning, she decided to sweep the river corridor. The creek had frozen in places, leaving slick sheets of ice over the slower bends. She strapped on her snowshoes, slung her rifle across her back, not for hunting, but in case of a predator encounter, and set off. The air grew sharper near the river, carrying the faint metallic temps of ice. Tracks dotted the snow: elk, fox, and, more recently, bear. Anna slowed, examining the impression. The paw size was small, a cub beside them, larger prints pressed deeper into the crusted snow. The sow and cub had come through here, maybe just hours earlier. A sound carried faintly over the water. Not quite a growl, not quite a cry. Anna's body went rigid. She moved slowly toward the source, boots crunching on the frozen ground. On the far bank, she spotted them, the sow and her cub, the little one pawing at something near the edge. Anna's relief was short-lived. The cub was too close to the ice shelf. She knew how quickly a young bear could slip through thin ice into the frigid current below. She cupped her hands around her mouth. "Hey, easy now." Her voice was calm, but firm, hoping the tone would carry without startling them. The sow looked up, ears flicking toward her, but didn't bolt. Instead, she stepped closer to her cub, nudging him back from the edge. Anna scanned the tree line behind them. Movement, subtle, but enough. Her heart sank. A tawny shape, low to the ground, slinking between the spruces. The lions were back. She reached for her radio. "Evan, Sarah, I've got visual on the sow and cub near the river. Possible predator contact." Static, then Evan's voice. "On our way." 5 minutes. 5 minutes was too long. Anna stepped onto the ice bridge, testing each step. The sow rumbled a warning, but didn't charge. It was a delicate line, getting close enough to influence their movement without crossing into aggression. She waved, her arms urging them toward the thicker timber behind her. "Come on, let's move." Then a sound froze her in place, the low, rhythmic thump of something big approaching fast. She turned. Machina was coming down the slope from the sanctuary. Fence line, his massive frame cutting through the snow like a living wall. He wasn't running recklessly. His pace was measured, direct, every movement radiating purpose. The lioness appeared fully now, her golden eyes fixed on the cub. The male stayed hidden in the brush, likely circling for position. Anna's fingers brushed her rifle strap, but she knew firing would only be a last resort. Machina stopped between the lions and the river, chest heaving in the cold air. He didn't charge. He stood, broad shoulders squared, making himself an unignorable presence. The lioness slowed, ears twitching, reading him. A moment of silence stretched like wire between them. Anna seized it. She stomped on the ice, her voice bouncing off the frozen water. The sow took the cue, pushing her cub toward the bank Anna had crossed from. They scrambled up, snow scattering in chunks behind them. The lioness flicked her tail, weighing her odds, then backed into the shadows. No chase, no kill, not today. When Anna looked back, Machina was still standing there, breath fogging in the cold. He glanced once at the retreating bears, then at her, before turning uphill, disappearing into the timber without a sound. Anna exhaled, the tension finally leaving her chest. Today, at least, the river had given back what it could have taken. Snow kept falling through the afternoon, soft and steady, muting every sound in the valley. By the time Anna returned to the ranger station, her jacket was coated in a fine layer of white. She hung it by the stove, but her mind was still on what had happened at the river. The image replayed in her head, the cub scrambling up the bank, the lioness vanishing into the trees, and Machina standing like a sentinel between life and death. By late day, she decided to check the valley one more time before dark. It wasn't protocol, but something told her the day wasn't finished with her yet. She snowshoed toward the ridge that overlooked the meadow. The air was sharp, biting at her lungs, but the view that greeted her below made her pause in the middle of the meadow. The sow and her cub moved slowly, their tracks winding in the powder. The cub, the same one from the river, stayed close to his mother now, brushing against her leg like he couldn't bear the distance. And then, from the far side, a dark shape emerged from the tree line. Machina, again. His massive figure moved with the kind of quiet strength that came from years of surviving in a place where survival was never guaranteed. The sow froze, watching him. The cub peeked out from behind her leg, eyes wide. Anna's pulse quickened, not from fear, but from the strange intimacy of what she was seeing. Machina didn't approach in a rush. Instead, he stopped several yards away, settling into the snow. He didn't posture or threaten. He simply watched. Minutes passed. The snow thickened, curling down from the gray sky, muffling the world even more. Then, slowly, the sow lowered her head, a subtle gesture, almost imperceptible, but one Anna caught instantly. It wasn't submission. It was acknowledgement. The cub, curious, took a few steps forward. He was still young enough not to carry the weight of inherited fear. For a heartbeat, the two locked eyes, the tiny bear and the towering gorilla. Anna couldn't explain it, but in that moment, the cold, the danger, the wild rules of predator and prey, they all seemed suspended. The sow gave a soft grunt, calling her cub back. He hesitated, then obeyed, trotting into the shelter of her side. Machina remained where he was, unmoving, as though he knew that was as close as the world would allow them to meet. Anna stayed still, hardly breathing, afraid to disturb something she knew she would never witness again. Eventually, the sow turned toward the western tree line, leading her cub back into the shelter of the pines. Machina waited until they were gone before standing. He scanned the ridge, and for a brief second, his gaze found Anna. It wasn't long, but it was enough. She didn't see dominance in his eyes. She saw recognition, and then he was gone, fading into the snow and timber without a sound. By the time Anna returned to the station, dusk was closing in. The valley had gone quiet, save for the whisper of wind against the eaves. She sat at her desk, recording the day's events. But when she got to the part about the meadow, she stopped. Some things couldn't be written in a way that captured their truth. Some things you had to hold in your chest, where words couldn't touch them. That night, she stepped outside once more. The stars were sharp above the peaks, and the snow reflected their light in a cold, silver glow. Somewhere out there, the bears were sleeping, safe for now. Somewhere, Makina moved through the forest, unseen but not forgotten. Anna exhaled, the steam of her breath curling into the air. In the wild, survival was the rule. But today had been different. Today had been proof that even here, in the most unforgiving of places, there was room for something else, a quiet kind of mercy. If this story touched your heart, remember, compassion is as wild and powerful as nature itself. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share this with someone who believes in the unexpected beauty of the natural world.